are going to take a diesel train into service. First, collect the controls. The brake handle, the reversing lever, the door keys, and the control circuit switch key. These are kept in the satchel when not in use. The satchels are stored in their proper place in the depot and issued to drivers when required. Make sure that there are no not to be moved boards or red flags on the train before you get in. First, remove the detonator canister from behind the driving seat and check that the seal round the top is intact. The red flag is also in the canister. Now check that the handbrake is full on and the ratchet down. You may have to open the back of the destination indicator in order to see properly when you set it. Insert the control circuit key and turn it on. At the same time, switch on the lights for the two indicators. If there is less than 75 pounds of air in the control system, or if the engines are cold, you should start them from outside. Take the door keys with you and inspect the train as you walk round it. As this train has been standing all night, it has to be fully prepared. On arriving at the first engine, check the fuel level in the tanks. Then pull the throttle full out and press the start button, in this case, number 2 engine. Release the button immediately the engine starts. If it is cold, it may not fire for quite a few moments. When it does fire, ease the throttle in and out gently, but do not race the engine. As the engine runs, it is also building up air pressure for the control system because it is driving the air compressor. The throttle must be held open until the engine will run at idling speed. Release it gently and see if the engine does continue to run. Walk round to the other side of the train and keep a lookout for any defects, checking the classification and destination indicators as you go. Start the second engine in the same way as the first. It should only be necessary to use the hand throttle to overcome the coldness of the engine and don't race it. Now that the two engines are running, you should carry on to the rear cab. Check the detonator canister. There should be one in each cab. You must remember to release the rear handbrake because a great deal of damage will be done to wheel tires if these trains are driven with a handbrake on. The rear destination indicator must correspond with the front one, and its light must be switched on. Also check that the perspex cover of the dead man's isolating valve is intact. Both engines must now be stopped. On some cars, until the reversing lever is in place and a direction of travel selected, the engines can only be stopped from the outside. There is a carriage heater fuel tank gauge on some trains which must be checked as you pass. The compressor, driven by the engine, has now raised the air pressure to 75 pounds, the minimum satisfactory working pressure for the cab controls. First, fit the brake handle. The reversing lever controls the position of the dogs in the final drives. As you selected forward direction, a piston pushed the dogs into mesh in number 1 final drive, like this. In number 2 drive, the dogs moved over but did not mesh as the teeth were not opposite each other. That is why the air light has not come on. It will only light when both drives are in mesh and the air pressure is at least 75 pounds. As soon as the engine starts, the oil drag will turn the dogs sufficiently to mesh. Now depress the throttle to engage the dead man's device. Move the throttle to notch 2. This causes the throttle motor to open the fuel rack a little. To start the engines, press the start buttons one at a time. Now, number 2 button. There, the air light came up as well. Now return the throttle to the idling position. The engines have also been driving the exhauster of the brake system and building up the vacuum reservoir. On the right is the release pipe reading, and on the left, the train pipe reading. Next, test the brake and deadman systems. Release the brake until 21 inches is registered on the train pipe. Then return the brake to the lap position. Let go of the throttle handle and check that the indicator light goes out. After 5 seconds, the vacuum is destroyed, so applying the brakes. Now release the handbrake. The train is now ready to move. While awaiting the guard signal, release the brake a little until about 15 inches is registered. That is sufficient to hold the train. Check, finally, that the air pressure has built up to 95 pounds per square inch, that the dead man's indicator light is on, and that the engine and air lights are on. On receiving the 2 buzzes, select first gear and then release the brakes altogether. When the gearbox was in neutral, heavy parts were revolving inside. A sectioned gearbox shows what happens in slow motion. First gear is selected by tightening the nearest brake band, which slows and stops the nearest drum. As this takes time to happen, you must pause after selecting gear before you accelerate. Under the train, the fluid flywheel and freewheel take up the drive. Engine power is now being transmitted through the gearbox to the cardan shaft, and so to the final drive in the road wheels. Soon the tachometer shows it's time to change up. Yes, the timing was a bit too quick. To change from first to second, the nearest brake band has to be released and the second tightened. Allow 2 seconds for this to happen. Now, after the 2-second pause, is the time to open the throttle notch by notch. If you don't pause, you may cause damage in the gearbox. Now watch. The next gear change is coming up. Throttle back. Here's the point to select the gear. Pause, 1, 2, and open the throttle notch by notch. Let's see what happened during the change from second to third. The second band has to be released and the third tightened. Incidentally, never use force on the driving controls. It's pointless, since most of them operate electrically. It's time to change into 4th gear. Remember the timing, change up, now into 4th gear, and pause again. In the gearbox, the third band has to be released and all the gear trains are locked together. 4th or top gear is a direct drive through the gearbox. The train is now bowling along in top gear. These trains run very quietly, and it is important to remember this as you drive. A 2-tone horn is fitted, and both tones should be used to give warning one after the other, and for the same length of time, to avoid confusion with the sound of car horns. Warning of your approach should be given where there is poor visibility, at all crossings, like this one, for example, and of course to warn people working on the track. They are instructed to acknowledge your horn as soon as it is heard. This is a good opportunity to check that both engines are running at the same speed. Click the switch down and watch the tachometer needle. It should move only a little. Now return the switch to the original position. Whenever you reach the maximum speed required, throttle back and the train will coast along economically with the engines idling. The engines can idle because there is a free wheel fitted on the shaft between the fluid flywheel and the gearbox. You are in fact free-wheeling. Make sure you always coast in top gear. In top, all the gear trains are locked together. Coasting in any other gear or in neutral can make parts of the box rotate at an excessive speed. This can easily damage the gearboxes. A distant signal is against the train. Partial brake application is necessary. As the home signal comes off, release the brake. You will notice that the train has lost a lot of speed. Check from the speedometer this time and select the appropriate gear for the train speed. In this case, it is necessary to change down from 4th to 2nd gear. As the train gathers speed, the driver changes up through the gears again at the appropriate times. train is now climbing quite a steep gradient, and in spite of full throttle, it is losing a lot of speed. So throttle back, and this time immediately engage third gear. But the pause before opening the throttle is still necessary. When you change down to third gear, the gear trains are unlocked, and at the same time, the third speed brake band is tightened. The station and the end of the run are in sight. But you are still in third gear. As we said earlier, it is important to coast in top gear, so although you are about to brake, throttle back, engage fourth gear, and let the engine idle. The brakes on these trains are very powerful, and care and skill is necessary in handling the brake to make a smooth, comfortable stop for the passengers. Just before stopping, put the gear lever into neutral. This driver is going to give up charge of the train for a short time. He must first stop the engines, put on the handbrake, remove the reversing lever and brake handle, and lastly, the control circuit switch key. Close the windows and lock both cab doors. Also, remember to switch off the lights in the rear cab and to lock it again afterwards.